Hey everybody, this is Dan Stolbarger, the Executive Director of Koinonia Institute, Israel, and I'm at the ancient port of Caesarea. And let me just give you a little panoramic view of this incredible place. And you know, I love coming to Caesarea. And part of the reason is because as a Gentile, this is always a place that I come, and I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we collectively have been grafted in. The door was opened here for the Gentiles. Let me tell you the story. You remember it. About, I would say, half an hour down the road from here, maybe 45 minutes, there's an ancient port called Jaffa, or you probably know it as Jaffa. And it was there that Simon the tanner's house, Peter was there, as you know, and there's this vision of this sheet, all the animals of the world there. Peter's told, kill and eat, but basically he's told, get yourself up to Caesarea. I've got an encounter with you with a Roman centurion. You have to understand the deep-seated hatred between the Jews and the Romans. So it's not always just an automatic, sure, whatever you say, Lord. In fact, we know in Jaffa, one of the places, you know, I always call that a place of decision making. I believe that God has a plan for all of our lives, and it goes back to, you know, Jaffa, let's think, Jonah. And God had a mission for Jonah at Jaffa as well. Remember, he wanted Jonah to go to preach to the Ninevites. And Jonah's attitude was, no way. If I go preach to them knowing you, you'll forgive them. And there was a hatred of the Ninevites. And so Jonah sought to go his own way. In fact, Tarshish is like completely the opposite direction of Nineveh. And so there was a call to discipleship. God had a plan. And, you know, sometimes God has to convince us that he's serious about that plan. And thus, Jonah learned a hard lesson, right? Think fish vomit. Well, in the same way, that same sort of hatred is kind of there with Peter hearing to go to, you know, speak to a Roman centurion. You got to be out of your mind. And yet, Peter, on the other hand, is faithful. He makes the trip up to this spot. And again, at this spot, we have what I call the open door to the Gentiles. God made it clear that the gift of Jesus was not for Israelites only, but was for all of mankind. So I always loved this spot. I always remember when I'm here, I'm the type that I kind of want to, it just gives me goosebumps to think about all the biblical figures that have been in certain places. And so for here, obviously the first thing that comes to mind is what I just shared with you in terms of Peter and Cornelius, but also not only is this a place of arrival, Peter gets here and all that, it's a place of departure, because as I'm sitting here in the harbor of Caesarea, we know that Paul departed from this place, missionary journeys, and then ultimately appealing to Caesar, off to Rome. And so it's not hard for us to think, well, if Paul left for his missionary journeys from here, no doubt Barnabas was here. The next missionary journey, Titus, Silas. You know, it's an amazing place to just sort of reflect. And then, of course, we've got the Pontius Pilate stone. Most of the Romans spent more of their time here than they did in Jerusalem. Paul before Felix, Agrippa. This place is just loaded with meaning. But the most important thing, like I said, for me, is to know that this was the place that God looked at me throughout time and space as a Gentile and says, you get in. And so, special place, special time. And I just want to encourage you to consider coming to Israel with us at some point. You can find all of our trips on studycenter.com. You know, my wife does an amazing job putting all these things together. And our upcoming tours will include our Issachar tour, which is the Israel of the Bible as well as the Israel of today, followed by, and it can just be an extension, for the very first time we're doing a trip to Turkey to visit the 7 churches of Revelation, okay, as well as a cruise over to a ferry ride over to Patmos, where John wrote the book, or was dictated the book of Revelation. So just want to encourage you guys to check it out, studycenter.com, for all that information. And again, this is Dan. It's Caesarea. We're in if you're a Gentile. Thank the Lord. God bless you, and much shalom.